Welcome to the OC. I'm Phil, and this is my co-host Corey, and tonight we are talking about the Bermuda Triangle. Not to be confused with flying triangles or pyramids.
Or Bermuda shorts.
Or Bermuda shorts, which I enjoy wearing from time to time.
I have not worn Bermuda shorts or Bermuda. It's a
used
Hawaiian
to
shirt. It's a Hawaiian shirt, Bermuda shorts.
I'm not sure. You're too stylish. That's your problem.
Yeah, that's exactly what people. Those are exactly words people have used to describe me.
Far too stylish for you.
I think that's what I had written in my friggin' yearbook.
Yeah,
too stylish.
So stylish. Yeah, both of us. Yeah, those poor kids. So the Bermuda Triangle, also known as the Devil's Triangle.
And not to be known as the Devil's Three-Way, which is another one, which is something different.
That sounds very BDSM of you. Welcome.
Sure
welcome to the podcast if you're listening. We cover a multitude of topics from Bermuda Triangle to BDSM.
Right.
Yes, you're on the OC. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
That's right. So it's an interesting topic. I was a little what's the word? I think we talked about it.
Disappointed.
A bit.
The romance was dead, like anything. It's like now you found out Santa doesn't exist.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, so I mean, let's talk about the area first of all. I am a little familiar. I've been in the Bermuda Triangle. I mean, off the coast of Florida. So from Florida, basically to Puerto Rico, and into kind of going into like the northern Atlantic. So it's a huge area, right? Of water.
Yeah, it goes down. It goes from Florida to Puerto Rico, and then up to
then straight up
to Bermuda, I guess.
Well, it's northern. It's the Atlantic. It's northern. It covers about, they're saying like 1.5 million square miles, roughly.
Which isn't hard to do when it's big, empty ocean.
Yeah, it's a big area. And it's also an area that's really well known for, bad weather, right? So you've been on the ocean, right?
Yeah.
And then it's an experience, right? So
not necessarily always a good experience.
No. And even a calm ocean, and my wife experienced that too. Like when we were, she's seen the calm ocean to her is very motion sick. Like it's not good. So we all have an idea of what the ocean is, but it's a miserable bitch when it wants to be. And so the Bermuda Triangle is basically the host of all these kind of weird ideas that ships and planes and you name it has gone missing. Dum dum dum.
Yeah, exactly. Now cue on this music. Oh my God, we have this portal to hell. This portal to hell right near Miami.
It is the Devil's No, we call that San Francisco.
San Francisco.
the Devil's. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So it's a very heavily traveled shipping area, and
completely. And that's the funny part,
huge.
Right? When you think about all these. Oh my God! If it's such a terrible, awful. Yeah. But it's heavily traveled.
Heavily traveled. So if you're coming from Europe or anywhere, basically, I mean, you're coming through to deliver goods to the United States, to whatever port. I mean, you're traveling at some point through the Bermuda Triangle. I mean, you to get any of the lower states. And it's also a recreational place because
a lot of tourists, a lot of cruise ships go through it.
Area.
Surprise.
So sunny. They have much nicer tans than we do.
Did you know you can actually go and find on their site? Bermuda actually has a Bermuda Triangle fact site.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. No, I had
yeah, exactly. Surprise, right?
But know what? It becomes a thing, right? I mean, you're in the Bermuda Triangle. This becomes now the, oh, well, I hope you make it. Your guest room is here.
I hope you make it. Oh, Jesus.
But yeah, and that's the funny thing is, and we'll get into that. We don't want to.
Don't want to spoil things. Ooh, about the scary stuff, kids. That's Count Floyd, by the way. In case you're wondering, SCTV Count Floyd.
Eugene Levy.
No,
wasn't it?
No, George Flattery, Joe Flattery.
Joe Flattery.
Oh the tall, has a widow's peak. Not a widow's peak. He's got a receding hairline.
But he reminds me so much of Eugene Levy. Oh, maybe I've mistaken him all these years.
I think you have, because Eugene Levy was in Schitt's Creek.
Yes, but I thought he was also in SCTV.
He was. Eugene Levy, I believe, was
Oh my God.
Well, that's something
this
to
is
look
a
up.
whole other podcast.
But George Flattery was the SCTV.
Yes,
He also
no.
played the owner of SCTV too. The
Okay.
Guy Caliero.
Yeah,
in
like
the
a
chair.
douchey Italian guy, huh?
That's right.
Yeah, with the chest hair flowing.
And he's doing the chair. He's rolling around in the wheelchair.
Yeah. So that's gonna bug me now. I'm gonna have to look that up. Anyway, so yeah, the first time anyone's really mentioned the Bermuda Triangle being this kind of odd, weird place is in 1950. So, and that goes back to the Miami Herald, and it suggested the disappearances in this area were uncommon or were strange events.
And it was just an article published. That's it. Like
article.
it wasn't anything super.
What was
it was kind of like
name?
Edward Van Winkle Jones.
Sounds like a solid name.
Hey, do you know what Vanilla Ice's real name is? It's also Van Winkle or Van Wrinkle. Is it Van Winkle or Van Wrinkle?
I don't know.
I want to say it's Van Winkle.
Oh my God, Vanilla Ice. So
maybe they're related.
Maybe they are. Maybe it could be. So 1950s article. Yeah, he could be a descendant or something. But so in 1945,
Robert Matthew Van Winkle. In case you're wondering what Vanilla Ice's real name is,
Robert Matthew Van Winkle.
Yes.
I wonder why he went with Vanilla Ice.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. So flight 19 is probably. I'd like to kind of touch on some of the little things that this article,
because this is what the article touched on, right?
This was the big thing was flight 19, and so it was a routine navigation combat training exercise. 5 planes, they're Avenger torpedo bombers, basically. So these are, and this was December 5th, 1945.
Yeah, and so it was just like a little thing had just finished or was just happening. World War II.
Oh yeah. They were doing routine exercises because just because the war was apparently over, they figured there still could be several U-boats still in the water. In likelihood, there was.
Now these the flight 19 was a set of bombers, right? They were Avenger bombers or
they were Avenger torpedo bombers. So they were basically looking for U-boats, right? So and they would drop bombs to fucking destroy these U-boats, from what I gathered anyway. So in this, 14 airmen went missing. What solidifies, before we even get into their story, what solidifies, I think, this as being something a little esoteric or mysterious, is that the rescue crew that went to look for them also vanished.
Yep.
Right, which was another 13 crew members. So that was also in the article. So the article kind of goes, oh, well, these planes went missing. And then all of a sudden, the guys who went looking for them, well, they fucking went missing too. So, yeah.
Now let's not forget, this was wartime.
This was
or wartime, or like, when did, it was because wartime finished up in when did World War II?
No. Yeah. So this was December. World War II would have been considered.
It would have been over for a bit. But not necessarily. Like the Cold War was just beginning, and there was still this whole idea of trying to.
Yeah, and there. Well, it was like like you had like Japanese soldiers on islands that fucking.
Yeah, they found all those Nazis fleeing to Argentina.
Well, and U-boats shuffling Nazis to Argentina like crazy right out of Italy. Yeah, our good Italian friends. But yeah, so the military was still enormous at this time, right? The boys were coming home, but I mean, there was still, these guys were protecting the coastal waters of the United States, right? So yeah, so these guys are basically flying along and jump in here anywhere you like, because I mean the story is kind of broad, but there is radio transmissions that were picked up.
Yeah, some of the good ones are, we can't tell where we are. Everything can't make out anything. We think we are about 225 miles northeast of base. It looks like we are entering water. We are completely lost. And that was their final transmission. Yeah. And so what was happening is they thought, well, the I guess the lead or the commander, or whoever the flight head guy was like, the compass stopped working, or whoever was flying in formation. The lead guy's like, my compass isn't working.
So they rotate out of formation for the captain or whoever to take the lead, and he apparently claims the same thing, that his instruments are not working.
They're talking about making landfall. They're saying basically one of the big prevailing theories is they got lost and ran out of fuel.
They absolutely. So one of the things, basically at 1.2 and in one of the transmissions, they say they're over land. So they thought they were over the Florida Keys, which are little islands. They thought it was islands, but there are a lot of islands in that area, right? So they could have been, instead of being as far east as they thought they might have been, they may have been further west, that's the theory, is that they were much further west than they actually anticipated, which was bringing them, instead of bringing them to land into Florida,
it was bringing them further out.
It was bringing them out to open sea, right? Mm-hmm. And their water. So I watched an interesting documentary about this, and they lost communication with their base, and then another radio tech picked them up the coast, a long ways up the coast, and I can't remember the name. I'll maybe put it up, but he had a conversation with them as well, and it was in reference to, he thought they were going the wrong way because he could pick them up. He was dialing into their signal, and he could get their radio transmission, so he knew they had to be within a certain distance, right? It was like playing.
Yeah, they did they actually did the triangulation where they were like, okay, here's based on because radio
transmissions.
Here's your points. Okay, so you're in this area here.
Yeah, and they're like, once they lost communication. So they would have run out of fuel and all ditched the planes, and then who fucking knows? And a lot of the people are like, well, we never found any wreckage, and.
Remember Malaysia? Melissa was talking about this just before the recording. Yeah. She said, well, what about the big one? I'm like, what big one are you talking about? And the CNN guy said, oh, you mean the Malaysian flight? We still don't know. Still know where that is. And that's
and these are small planes. So when
small planes, not with black boxes. Not with those little black boxes. No, we didn't do a friggin' send.
Malaysia's a little weirder situation.
A little bit weirder.
Yeah, a little bit weirder. But the other thing is that in the Gulf, you have this thing called the Gulf, the Gulf Stream, right? It's a very real thing, and it
affects climate. El Nino.
Yeah, it's a fucking river in the ocean, and
the Gulf Stream. Yeah,
it is moving. It's hauling ass, and some of the Coast Guards too. They had this. They're like, if you're even anywhere near that Gulf Stream, it is taking record. It's taking everything. It takes everything you can imagine floats through this fucking Gulf Stream. And
apparently, a lot of the ocean currents, there's basically a garbage pit of the world. So all the crap we dump into the ocean winds up in one spot, or like two, or maybe no, I think it's like 2 or 3 different spots, and you can see the footage, and it's horrible.
Oh yeah, for sure. And this Gulf, not only that, it's a needle in a haystack. Like, the odds of you finding these planes, and even with that technology from 1945, slim to none. You're visually, and bad weather, like, fuck. Back then, it would have been all mostly visual. Now they have thermal imaging. They have a lot of technology.
They had, then they would have had sonar and that too. They would have had some radar.
But to find a person floating on the surface, even if you're in a calm sea, how the boat, you don't see, if you're on the water, on the surface of the water, very difficult to
find. You gotta have the signal mirror.
You gotta have something.
The flare up.
Well,
don't shoot the flare, folks, unless you see somebody coming to rescue. These idiots who fire the flare the moment they run into distress. Yeah, it's not gonna last forever. Wait, just wait.
Wait a while. Wait till you see something.
Wait till you see something that you want to rescue you.
Because it is difficult to see. There's and actually the Coast Guards, mention that too, and that they're like, even from helicopter, to cover an expansive ocean where you have a general idea where somebody went down, their boat went down, or plane went down. It's very difficult. Most wreckages are not recovered. No, that's not uncommon.
But salvage, hey man, somebody's going to look for them. If there's stuff there, somebody will salvage them and claim salvage rights.
Yeah,
I don't know what the rule of the sea is, but it's
something
decent.
The sea, these planes won't even be there. Like the salt water would have.
They're a coral reef right now. That's what they are.
They were metal, like they were iron, like thin tin or whatever.
Speaking of rescue boats, do you want to talk about the PBM Mariner rescue planes?
Which one? The one that went.
Those are the ones that were sent dispatched to find them.
Yeah, sure. Of course.
Okay,
yeah.
So some fun details about them.
Yes.
PBM Mariner had a reputation of being notoriously accident prone. They were known as a flying gas tank because they were also prone to blowing up.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, perfect. And these are your rescue boats, right?
Yeah, let's use those rescue planes that blow
up. For its tendency to explode. Perfect. You know, and so almost immediately one of them disappeared when they were looking for them, along with 13 crew members.
Yeah, and that was it was 13 crew. So these must have been a fairly big plane.
And they sent two of them. So
one came back.
The other one disappeared. But I mean, from the sounds of it, that's not too surprising given the, the crew thinks this has a tendency to explode.
And now we don't know the weather conditions either. Like that was something I tried to read about, and the weather was not fair. So,
but the weather, they didn't say they drove into a tropical storm, right? They said
which happens every day.
Which happens is they move through that area. It's awful.
It is a huge weather area. Yeah. So I mean, there's always look at the hurricanes that hit the coast and hit just 4 or 5 years ago, like Puerto Rico got hit, like
they apparently stopped naming them after women.
Oh, well, that's good. I mean, what do they name them after now?
Everybody, I don't know. Both names, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
They actually have a system of how they name it. It used to be like a letter-based system, and they would basically pick the next, I believe, woman's name, but now it's more gender.
They had El Nino and El Nina. So those are Andrew.
But I'm more like Hurricane Andrew, Hurricane Katrina. Like you had. So if you look at some, I believe if you look at some of the other ones, I believe that was but
it's like when you name a boat or something, it's always a she. I don't know why that is, but she's a good steady boat. But I'm not saying I do it, but I'm just saying.
What did you name your boat, Phil?
I haven't named my boat. My boat is Legend.
Darlene, isn't it? It's the boat to Darlene. It's the SS Darlene.
Nope, bad luck to name it after your wife. Do not name your boats after people you know.
I learned that in video games. Don't name your when you play a game like XCOM where your soldiers die like all the time.
Yeah,
don't name them after your friends.
Yeah, or things you're going to sell one day.
Yes, true.
Yeah. So, but boating in that area and everything else. I mean, we don't take into account. Oh, well, that boat disappeared. Well, did he travel into weather that he maybe shouldn't have?
Well, let's come back. So this Flight 19 was the genesis of where that Miami Herald article kicked off, right?
That's right.
One of the things, folks, like everything, you start figuring out where this all started. And the Bermuda Triangle thing started from this Miami Herald article. That's the earliest incident of somebody saying the Bermuda Triangle is a terrible place.
That's right.
There was a follow-on article written in something called whatever Fate magazine was.
Oh, sounds legit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, there were tons of sci-fi magazines, right? Like the pulp magazines and that. So, and this was by a fellow by the name of George Sand, and it was a short article, but covering the loss of several planes and ships, including Flight 19. And a group of 5. No, that's the same one. Yeah, it's just group Flight 19. He's talking about Flight 19 again. So it gets mentioned again later in another magazine, talking about pretty much the same incident.
So you're seeing that repetition. Yeah. Yeah. So it goes back, though. I mean, one thing I did find interesting that some of the memoirs of Christopher Columbus, so 1492, he doesn't say exactly what was happening, but that him and the crew had seen lights in the sky, and this could be like one of the earlier.
Yeah, he also thought he was in India too, so
he had no idea where he was.
And was it Columbus or Cook? Who was the one where they ate the fish that was like the puffer fish that gives you it's a tetrodotoxin, the TTX stuff that makes you
can eat them if you know where to cut out the bad things.
And if you don't, because well, you can die. You can die.
Yeah.
If you
people do die from that.
They do, but you don't necessarily die
Okay. Anyone who looks at a pufferfish, because I've seen them up close and personal, and they also have little fucking beaks. They will nip you, believe it or not, and take a chunk of skin out of you. Anyone who's willing to eat one of those, there's something wrong. Far more fish in the sea.
If I'm on a ship and that's what's to eat,
and they're not even abundant.
Eat what you can, but apparently it tingles the tongue if you do it properly. If you don't, you poison yourself with TTX, which is a nerve toxin, which can kill you. I mean, depending on quantity.
Apparently, it's painful. I have no idea. And it's like certain like lionfish. You don't want to step on them. You don't want to jab yourself with them. Apparently, they're delicious. Just don't get poked. They're delicious. Yeah, very tasty. But yeah, so this becomes, like you said, like it becomes sort of it's mentioned again and again.
Yeah, there's another article that shows up in American Legion magazine. Alan W. Eckert writes about it again in 1962. Talks about
there's Flight movies 19. Made. Right? There's movies made about the Bermuda Triangle. So it becomes sort of romanticized. And, I mean, I think most modern day people are like, whatever. Nobody looks at the way they do anything else because, science has taken a lot of the mystery out of things.
It has, but so I don't know about you, until I started digging into this, I was like, okay, it's an area where weird stuff happens. And then you start reading about it, it's like, is it really a weird stuff? Like it's somebody said.
I was like, oh, this is going to be it was my idea.
Yeah, I know. Did you ever actually read what was it? Vincent Gaddis's The Deadly Bermuda Triangle?
No, I watched a bunch of documentaries and some of the British documentaries are really skewed. Like they're bringing up things that are, there's a couple BBC documentaries that were done. And there's a couple good ones, and there's a couple that are like, they're so hokey. It's just making you want to watch to see what they're going to say next.
Is it pretty much clickbait, like drag you in?
Yeah,
find out next.
Yeah, kind of idea. And then there's other ones where they interview the Coast Guards and the people that are actually out there every day, and the pilots that fly over it. Like there's like pilots that fly over that thing twice a week. They're like, yeah, nothing. It's, you don't fly in bad weather. Like we're grounded usually. And, you're seeing a lot less of these things happening as technology gets better. Right. So.
True. Or we're getting better at hiding the fact they disappeared. Who knows?
Or that. I mean,
slap the veil of secrecy on it. So
it is possible.
To continue the whole origins of this thing, you had the article written, The Deadly Bermuda Triangle by Vincent Gaddis. Yes. He shows up in, I believe, our Philadelphia experiment discussion, followed by Chucky Berlitz and the Bermuda Triangle.
Good old Chucky Berlitz.
Good old Chucky.
Didn't he work at Food City? Anyway.
I don't know. Anyway, he wrote these books got written, right? So guess what? Somebody writes a book about something, and now all of a sudden, this was back in the day when if you wrote a book about something, it was given a lot more credence. This isn't the Slender Man on Reddit forums.
No, but once they start writing about this shit, then they start bringing up things like the USS Cyclops, which was basically a giant ship, 300 crew members. The ship goes missing.
So we're hopping. Well, let's hop over to notable incidents. So we've already talked about Flight 19. Now we're talking about Cyclops.
USS Cyclops. It was an interesting. I mean, they left port. They were on their way back. Let me see here. So they were hauling cargo, and what it was manganese ore, which is very heavy. Apparently, the ship was never designed to hold this kind of weight, huge amount of weight, and it went missing. But
when did it go missing?
It was 1918.
So here's the funny part. We talk about Flight 19, 1945. Yes. And then you start seeing these other instances they're discussed that have all been in the past that like, hey, this and 1918. I don't know about you, but 1918, I don't even think they had diesel engines in ships at that time. A lot of them were coal powered.
They were coal. That one was coal in particular.
Winston Churchill apparently was considered a visionary because he said, you know what, we gotta change our ships.
Yeah. Well, there was other ones that went missing too, like Proteus, but this was in wartime, right? So we don't know exactly. it's fact that German U-boats were all over the place. Fuck, they were even in Canada. They were up the St. Lawrence.
Correct.
You know, they were just mulling around. Why wouldn't you? You're underwater. Fuck it.
Well, there's always a challenge with the U-boats at that time is they did have to surface more, right? It wasn't until like we saw the submarines now with the nuclear submarines where they can stay submerged. Whereas there they'd have to actually surface.
They would eventually, yeah. So I think that if you look at naval records across the board, of course there's going to be mishaps. They're going to hit, they're going to go aground, they're going to, all sorts of things happen. The sea is a dangerous fucking place.
Oh yeah, and that's why when you hear about these things about Columbus's journal, I'm like, it's like you were crazy mothers. You were crazy mothers here to do this. Like you were literally sailing off into the unknown, hoping, and even if you knew where you were winding up, you had no idea what you were going to encounter on the way there.
That's right. Yeah, I don't put a lot of faith in Columbus.
No. What is the earliest incident you know of other than the Columbus one?
Well, other than Columbus, I don't know. There was some 1800
the USS Pickering.
Yeah, that was and that would have been probably a sailing ship.
Yeah, and it says it was lost with 90 people on board, and the thought is it was probably lost in a gale. Like,
well, this is it, right? This is it. Like you see the power of these even tsunamis that are out to sea at that time. Like we can record all this stuff now, right? I mean, we know where a tsunami is coming. We know where it's going to hopefully make landfall.
And what do you think the information? What do you think the weather service was like in the 1800s? Yeah, exactly. Is it raining? It's like that. It's like that. It's like like that. What that Newfoundland weather station? It shows like it's got 2 pairs of walnuts, and it's like if your nuts are wet, it's raining.
If they're not,
yeah, exactly. Right.
Red sky in the morning, sailor take warning.
Exactly.
Red sky
right. Like
at night, sailor's delight.
You're pulling up your copy of the Farmer's Almanac, going, "What's the Farmer's Almanac apply when I'm out in the middle of the ocean?" Maybe.
We went fishing on my boat on Lake Nipissing, and I'll tell you, we were out there in calm, no winds, 9 kilometers an hour. This is just a few weeks ago, and then all of a sudden we're up to gusts of 50 kilometers an hour, and I'm like trying to get us back to our dock. And I'm telling you, that's Lake Nipissing.
I went sailing with this one jackass, Phil. Okay, we went out. I was at his camp. We went on his boat near the Three Sisters. And the waves were like easily 3 meters high. It was basically the perfect storm. I felt like George Clooney.
Yes, you would feel like George Clooney.
with clown makeup on
because your white makeup and hat.
Because I didn't rub my expired
holding onto your life jacket.
Ready to pull the ripcord. I'm pulling it now.
Don't pull it. Yeah,
I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised we didn't smash into the rocks. Like I know you had the little engine going to keep it from, but we were just. That was not a good time.
Very different boat I have now.
It's like the Titanic now, right? You dare the gods themselves to sink.
I dare you.
The SS Darlene.
No, name my boat. It's bad luck. I even tell people who are naming their boats because they come to my shop and they're like, "Oh, I want this, for my boat." I'm like, "Are you naming it after someone you know? Don't do it." They're like, "What? Don't you want my money?" Nope. Don't want to help you with that. Fuck that noise. So let's talk a bit about. So we know shit goes missing, but I think the more interesting ideas are about why it goes missing.
Yeah, so we've covered kind of the origins of why anybody thinks there's something up with the Bermuda Triangle because somebody wrote a book. Surprise.
An article
that became an article and then movies. And then, so does this sound familiar at all?
It sounds like the Montauk Project.
I was going to say more about at least this time, the Office of Scientific Research or whatever it was, the folks who did the Philadelphia experiment, who basically did the, oh God, what was it? What was the version of the book? The dude's UFO book they wrote or whatever. Oh. I'd have to pull up my old notes. You know what I'm talking about, right?
The horse on the front.
No, that's the Montauk Project. No. God damn it. Now I got to go off and pull up my previous name. 1 second here.
For which? For the Philadelphia Project?
For the Philadelphia experiment.
Oh, the experiment. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you check the Philadelphia experiment, oh God, fuck that. There we go. That was episode 11, folks.
See,
yeah. The Office of Naval Research, and they were the ones who printed off the.
Oh yeah, they made their own books.
They made their own printing of the book because I don't know their.
Yes, it was a special copy.
Yes, which
special just copy, which made no sense.
Yeah, the marked up version.
Yeah,
which added credibility to it. Which was
that was with Buddy's notes in it.
Yes,
right?
The Vero edition.
The Vero edition. That had all the scribbles in different color pens.
Exactly. So it's like, at least this didn't happen with this. So nobody, and actually you can go on. So if you hit the notes up, you'll see my notes where I actually reference with the U.S. Navy. Now, again, would they tell us if there was a doorway to hell in the Bermuda Triangle? Probably not.
Yeah, no. Wow.
But on to what could it be, Phil? Do we want to go with
it has so many things.
The weird or the paranormal and natural? How about you pick one?
I would prefer to start with the paranormal.
You pick one of the paranormal. I'll pick one of the paranormal.
Okay, so I'll leave the one I know you want to touch on.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Phil.
We're gonna go with it's a military, or no, sorry, it is a UFO base of operations, and machinery and things like that are being affected because of extraterrestrials. I mean, this is one of the big things. Like, it's a breeding ground for UFOs, and
which is hilarious, right? Because they can get to our planet and they're like, hey, why don't we set up shop on the planet?
We can go anywhere we want, but we want to go to Miami.
Well, maybe
we like Puerto Rico and sometimes the far north. Why not? So that's kind of one of the things, is that there is a lot of sightings, of course, or things in the sky that people have claimed to see. I'm a big proponent of aliens. I like the whole idea. However,
I never would have guessed from the selection of topics
I love that shit, but I'm also a man of reason, mostly. And I mean, so it being a sort of a base of operations, which leads into what you're gonna say next about the paranormal. I'm pretty sure.
Am I?
I think you probably will.
All right,
but go ahead.
Mine is Atlantis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the idea. That so one of the locations that they figure Atlantis conveniently was in the Bermuda Triangle.
That's right. Yeah, and that has a lot to do with the Bimini Road. So if you haven't looked at that, it was discovered by.
And I want to save that because, spoiler alert, next episode, I'm thinking Atlantis.
What? Oh my God. How am I going to even finish this episode knowing what I'm going to do for next episode?
Well, it gives you some time to think and consider, because all these should be linked, right? This should be a chain. This episode should be a chain of unbroken awesomeness. That's what our podcast should be. And sometimes
unchained melody of broken awesomeness.
So the idea is that Atlantis is there.
Yes.
And that basically because of that, the area is fucked up. Right. So it's not that Atlantis, we're not talking Aquaman Atlantis here, by the way. We're talking ancient Atlantis, super tech.
That's right. That's
wonder of the ancient world.
Super tech is the problem, because what they think is the super tech is like interfering with instrumentation and stuff, because now aliens and Atlantis, it goes together.
Like peanut butter and jelly, my friend.
Like peanut butter and jelly. I'll be peanut butter, you be jelly. What?
Wait, what?
Anyway, so aliens, a lot of, there's so many. Oh my God, Atlantis in itself.
Well, and that's where
let's not even get into that too much.
We'll save all that for the next episode. But
this
is something like when they talk about I'll hint on it, is the idea that, like, you see these pyramids everywhere, and it's like, well, that's because the people from Atlantis went everywhere.
Well, yeah.
It's one of the theories, right? And
now there is mention of Atlanteans in Greek and Roman. I mean,
Plato said something. So Plato said lots of stuff. I think he said we're all made up of water.
Plato was also very high most of the time. Just saying. Anyone who loves Plato.
But we'll cover all that. Did you know Socrates hated democracy?
You said that in our last episode. Are you going senile?
No, I know we said it, but I'm just saying.
And that's why he was killed, burned at the stake with hemlock.
He was not burned at the stake.
Was
but
he
just to put the Greek
hemlock.
philosophers in the right state. I mean, remember, brilliant people, but
hey, it was a long time ago.
So yeah, Atlantis and aliens. Those are the two A number ones. And then we're not now. There is other ones where they talk about like portals to other realms, right?
Yes, that is true.
A video game called Dark Void I played, and it's basically that premise that you get sucked into the portal to another realm. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are not. I don't know. I mean, it would take a lot of convincing for me to believe any of that. However, at the top of my list is human hair.
Yeah, this is a natural phenomenon.
Yeah. And if I hadn't experienced this place myself, number of years ago, I would say, oh yeah, well, it's weird. It is dangerous. To even go fishing is dangerous. You're taking your life in your own hands if you don't know what you're doing on the water. And it just takes a small mistake. And
it's not even on the water. It's this is the funny part. In the air, right?
Well, in the air. Well, anytime you're flying a fucking plane. I mean, seriously, you're flying a plane.
Did you know what the level of like the number of people that died so in training in the US, right?
For which?
So fatal accidents were common when they were training airmen. Okay.
Like in World War II type idea?
Yeah, they were nearly as likely to die in training as they were in combat. Over 8,000 pilots died in training in Britain and over 13,000 in the US.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, there was some ridiculous like number for airmen to die. It was like one every like so many minutes in World War II. It was like you did not want to be a pilot. Of all the things to do in World War II, being a pilot was probably like for survivability.
Well,
it was right up there with driving those shitty little tanks.
I don't know, man. I saw like the Somme and stuff, and some of those battles, like Dieppe and that. And I'm like, I don't know, infantrymen didn't look so good either.
No,
I think any of them, unless you were a cryptological guy sitting back at the person who breaks crypto. A code breaker. Unless you were a code breaker, you were screwed. You want to be at the back. You want to be smart.
Yeah. Well, this is what I mean. I mean, you didn't have a choice, really, right? Well, I guess you did. Everybody wanted to be a pilot because it was cool.
And you know
until you're up there and you're like, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah, but there's the glory of it. So the people that were drawn to it, I think were very much the burn bright kind of glory folks.
It takes a certain mentality. Like I know.
And the planes you were flying in. The planes you were flying in.
Oh, what? Right. But to be even a jet fighter pilot, like I know an old jet fighter pilot, and he's a real prick. But he is full of himself. And he should be. Fuck, he used to fly planes at a bazillion miles an hour. And
what was his call sign? Ice douche?
No, I didn't know him that well. But I know his son. And I mean, he's old now, but you can still see it in his eyes. He's cocky. He doesn't give a shit about anything. Like he's done it. He's done it all. And that's the kind of guy that would have been a plane pilot or a pilot, right?
And those are the type of people that are more prone to take risks.
Yeah.
And therefore maybe push their planes further, faster, harder through
and keep going, even in the the inevitable fucking event of death. Me, I'd be more like, we're going to make a hard left here.
Yeah.
Going home. See you later. Yeah, I wouldn't have been built for that. But human error of all things.
So the one I'm going to hit on is the magnetic variation.
Yeah, and that's a good one. That's
it's a good one. So this is the one that a lot of people fall back on and say, well, Bermuda Triangle actually points to true north versus magnetic north.
But almost no magnetic fucking north, and no magnetic compasses point to true north. They're always off by a certain
they're supposed to point to
magnetic north.
They're supposed to point to magnetic north because it's a magnet. That's how compasses work. When they point to true north, it's like, wait a second. Yes. Now, the reason why this is one of those natural reasons that really isn't a reason at all is sailors, since they started using compasses, figured this out. Like there is nobody sailing and flying around this area, maybe flying around, I guess, but sailors for sure knew that this was a thing. Like, okay.
Now,
and then you have to set your actual variation. You say, okay, well, if this is true north and my compass pointed true north, well, magnetic north is this way, so I have to adjust accordingly to
figure out where you are. Sure. Now, in our day and age, with radar, GPS,
the GPS satellites are a big thing.
Like, yeah, of course they are. That shouldn't be an issue anymore. Like, I would think that most plane or pilots are not even looking at their compass, and if they do have,
I don't think they're actually flying their planes at this point. Honestly, when I hear all the
not
stories,
commercial, like commercial
they're putting them in autopilot. Let me know when it gets a problem. I'll take the stick.
Have a sleep.
If you're flying a plane and there's nothing around you, it's like unless something happens.
Sirens and bells. Wake up. Grab the stick. But yeah, no, the technology has changed so much. But I think that there's places around here where compasses don't work. It's a little place up north called Diver that's heavy metallic, super, like there's tons of metal in the ground.
You know where compasses also don't work?
South Pole.
Near Barney and Betty Hill.
Well, in their trunk. Only in the trunk. Weird.
What the hell? So for the obscure reference, folks, that was the episode 4 where we talked about that, and they had their car got magnetized or something, so they're apparently just wandering around with a compass.
That's right.
Okay, what else? What's another good natural phenomenon that you like?
It's probably, I saw this and it was really interesting, and I think it's worth a mention. It's methane gas.
Methane hydrates. So
I watched the actual video of the experiment that was done by these, I think they were Brits, and they sunk a boat with water, basically with air. So there's these huge pockets of methane that are stuck in the ground like natural gas, right? And they do release, and it's an enormous amount of gas. Like you could not recreate.
And it fucks with the buoyancy of the water. So the water gets super frothy, and the boat can't.
The boat loses buoyancy. Like if you're just happening to fucking drive over this thing, and you're like, we're not moving anywhere.
We're moving somewhere.
Yeah, down. Yeah. So they actually sink this fucking thing with like tubes and water, and it's probably a 20-foot bow rider.
Okay.
And they just have compressors, and what they do is they create water bubbles, right? So the bubbles change the buoyancy of the water, right? And the boat just starts to fucking sink out of sight.
Because that's what some people.
Unbelievable.
It's hard to wrap your head around, right? Well, it's like it's water. No, it's actually more bubbles of things now than less water.
Right.
Like boats don't float on air.
Boats don't fly, generally speaking.
Boats don't fly. Now, it doesn't explain methane hydrates. Doesn't explain planes.
It does not explain planes, but it's surely to fucking explain a boat, because I watched that thing go down like, and it was quick, and it was Now, the other thing is that if it was in a massive scale and you were trapped in the center of this, so imagine that you're in an 80-foot boat, but when these things let off, these methane things,
they're called like mud volcanoes.
Yeah, they're enormous. They can be.
This isn't like a little burp, a little fart in the ocean.
No, this is like, like 20 football fields of this fucking shit going up and all at once, right? So if you're within that, whatever that diameter is, and they don't really know because no one's really measured but they know it's large, right? And your prop's not going to work. Your propulsion system is going to stop. You're going to sink, and you're going to sink out of sight. So, and it doesn't matter how deep it is, because that's the thing about buoyancy. Methane's lighter than water.
So it displaces
it's going to the top. Yeah.
And all you need is to displace enough water so that you're now below the water line with your boat.
That's it.
You're sinking. And once that's all past you, maybe your buoyancy will return. Unfortunately, you may be below the water line at this point.
Well, yeah.
So you're actually popping like a cork. And
a large ship. So let's take like the Prometheus or any of the other ships that sunk, right? They're the Cyclops. These are very long cargo ships. So when you lose, let's just say you snap in half. Like you lose buoyancy at the aft of the center point, you near the stern. Well, fuck. The top half stays on the water, but the bottom half snaps off. Yeah, you don't float very well when you're.
That's what they said happened to the Titanic, and when it started going down. It can't support. That's why Superman can't lift up large boats the way he does.
Yeah.
because if he grabs it in one spot,
well, the structure would hold. It was
to,
like when he lifted
grab
the ice. You remember that? Which movie was Superman 2, where he freezes the lake and to put out the fire with Richard Pryor?
That's 3. Okay,
that's the one where
that's the one where he makes the evil Superman kryptonite.
Oh yeah.
And Superman becomes all edgelord.
And he's flicking peanuts. Is that the one where he flicks peanuts and he becomes nasty? Fights himself in the scrapyard.
Doesn't shave.
I don't shave anymore.
Dark. So takes the blonde up to the Statue of Liberty to show him what an edgelord man. Richard Pryor. I don't even know why Richard Pryor. He was the least convincing computer programmer in the world. Richard Pryor.
He could type really fast.
Yeah,
he's like, it was so great. Do you have another one?
Well, so this is the thing, right? And we've already covered the Gulf Stream. The number one is violent weather. I mean,
absolutely.
this if you're cruising to this area in hurricane season, right?
Yes.
You're screwed.
It's not a great idea. Yeah. Weather is a huge, well, it's like being even in Florida, like it rains almost every day for 20 minutes. Right? Like you're always getting weather. Weather is changing. Yes, it's nice, but you do have, you can have high winds, you can have high seas.
I see this as more of a problem for boats than planes. So planes, you could fly over, or it's easier. Your speed difference is massive, right? Like you're not cruising along at knots. It might not be going subsonic, but you're clipping along at a good pace. And so you can, unless you're dumb enough to fly straight through, you can divert or go.
Some inexperienced, and this goes back to human error, right? Inexperienced pilots that don't.
It's just a little rain, Phil. Don't worry about it. Just a little rain.
Rain can't see anything, including land.
Land, and our plane's doing this.
We're all over the place. Yeah. So I think planes in their own right are dangerous enough by themselves without adding in weather. And then if you add in inexperience, well, here you go, right? But yeah, weather for sure. Weather's bad.
Look at all the problems it gives us all over the place.
Yeah, and there's down, like you get like with these storms too, like you get a tropical storm, you get downdrafts, right? So a downdraft is, my wife's grandpa, like he got a downdraft and he put his plane in the ground. He was taking off at the time. So it was good. He only fell, like the plane only dropped about 40 feet, but it was like, fuck, like it's a real thing. Mother Nature's a bitch. She doesn't give a shit what you want to do. Yeah,
at all.
And like even if you watch some of the, what are some of those lobster catching show or the king crab?
Dangerous, deadliest catch and stuff like
that.
Yeah,
like you watch these fucking guys, like they're nuts. Like I get it, you make lots of money, but like how many of them have went down in the time that they've recorded the show? And these are hardcore, fucking raised on the water guys, and their ships are sinking because of weather, right? Like
also you can get your tasty lobster.
Also you can have your snow crab or whatever the fuck it is,
or whatever big mutant thing they're grabbing from middle of nowhere.
And guys are getting pulled overboard, and it's just,
it sucks to be a sailor. Like it is one of the harder lives. Like there's a reason why the British was going off and press ganging people.
They were what now?
Oh, you've heard of the concept of press gang, haven't you?
Not really, no.
So essentially, hey,
they made you
we're buying drinks. Hey, come on, drink up, buddy. Come on.
And you end up on a ship.
Next thing you know, you're sailing out. You're going, why did my buddies load me onto a ship?
I knew that. I just didn't know the term, but yeah. No,
press gang, yeah. They would go off and say, okay, we're basically putting you into service, and
guess what? We'll see you. You'll see home in 3 months.
Hey, we'll pay you. Crappy, but we'll pay you.
Yeah. You're already here. Might as well work. Why not?
Do you want to eat?
Yeah, but it is a dangerous, for sure, a dangerous job. And but the U.S. Coast Guard, there is some good documentaries out there, and they go into great detail about how many accidents. Some of these accidents that happened were not actually reported. Some of them are falsified. So that's
so that's one of the other problem, right? Is when you start digging through some of the incidences, it's like, well, were they real?
Right. Yeah.
Well, what's real, right? Oh, well, a guy said this happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's not enough people to debunk. Yeah. Oh, excuse me. But there's not enough people.
Boring you, Phil?
Fuck yeah.
It's your topic, Phil.
I know, but it didn't turn out to be like I wanted.
Well, at least it wasn't Montauk. It wasn't Montauk Project crazy, so that's good.
And is there a possibility that there's some sort of anomaly out there? I think there is, because methane gas is a new thing that it was just proven recently, right? About how that, and could there be something else? Perhaps. Well,
so
perhaps there is another natural, but I believe it would be something of the natural world, right?
And I believe it would be found at this point. So
yeah,
just like you said, it's heavily trafficked. It's heavily trafficked.
And there's ships that have traveled this stretch for 50 years. These same cargo ships, and nothing's ever happened to them. So yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It wasn't what I thought. It wasn't my. And
if you've stayed this long, folks, we hope this hasn't disappointed you. But to surmise, I don't think there's a lot to like. It's the Bermuda Triangle is another case of somebody wrote a book.
Yeah,
and everybody and culture and our pop culture ran with it. So now it's in the conscious. It shows up in the X-Files.
People love to fucking believe in things, right? And I'm one of them. I like to, I don't know so much believe, but I like the idea of the Bermuda Triangle. But when you really,
I don't think we debunked this. Full stop. I don't think we debunked this because we didn't have to.
Somebody
else did.
I don't think we really. No, exactly. There's no debunking of. If you just read the information, it's very plain to see that, this is just another stretch of water that's very dangerous,
like a lot of stretches of water in the Atlantic Ocean is a very dangerous place.
Yeah,
I mean,
with some of the most ships and planes flying across it out of anywhere in the world. So it's almost like you take like a major highway, right? Like you take an I-95. Right. How many accidents happen on an I-95?
How many fatalities there are now? And if you look at those numbers,
down on then you look on Bloom Street, some backyard.
Highway 7, number 7. Although I think Highway 17 in North Bay is also pretty bad, but it's a pretty bad highway.
In comparison, it's a very high death rate.
Yeah, but it's also very narrow, lots of rock cuts. You
lots
screw
of
up
bad things.
You screw up on Highway 17. You have two choices.
So north, like the 17, Highway 11 north, 17 across is not double laned. So
just the stretch from Ottawa to North Bay it's got parts that are double laned. A lot aren't. And if
most aren't,
Shane and I were driving up one, I think it was Easter.
Yeah.
And, we come across an accident and, somebody flags us down because we couldn't, so get this, a dude dressed all in black like a ninja flags us down from the accident that we can clearly see up ahead of us. We can't see him, but he's jumping out in front of our car trying to flag us down from running into the accident. He's decked out, black outfit, had a black hat on. I'm like, dude, Shane and I stopped with the accident, right? And we're going, and it's this girl. What happened is this mother and daughter, they were driving and moose came across.
Oh, moose.
Right. And they clipped the moose and it bounced off the windshield and is in the other lane. So Shane and I are basically taking turns to help with the police to direct traffic, like to.
Yeah.
Right. And I just laughed when there's this one guy I'm sitting there. Shane had just given me the cone. We had just traded off and I gave him his coffee. I got my coffee. I'm up there. I'm doing this. Everybody's slowing down except this one little Honda Civic. And I'm like, and Shane's like, he's not slowing down. I'm like, no, he's not slowing down. He doesn't know about the moose in the lane. No, he doesn't know about the moose in the lane. And you can see the moment where
he realizes
where he has his choice, because you can see from the other way coming from Ottawa, the cruiser got his light cherries flashing.
Yeah.
To the right is an embankment, like a 40-foot embankment that if you went down that, you're falling on rocks, you're dead.
Yeah.
So he has a choice: either go left, hit the cruiser head on, go right down the embankment 40 feet, or try and jump the moose. He tried to jump the moose.
Oh my God.
It did not work. You just see him catch it, drag, spark, and then you see him get clear. You hear this horrible tearing of metal.
Oh yeah. They're huge. They're huge.
And this is if you've only got one lane and you don't have anywhere you can go.
And this is it, right? Now imagine you're in a boat.
Yeah.
with X amount of passengers, and your moose is maybe a fucking iceberg or something.
Yeah, your moose is an iceberg or a
from the
football
fucking-
field, right? A football field. I said, what are you gonna do?
Or a coral reef that you
Yeah.
didn't know about.
Mhm.
Like, it's the same idea, and I think that there is a certain amount of human error mixed with bad conditions, and there you are, but do I love the idea of Atlantis? Yeah, I do. That's fucking
And
awesome.
by the way, we didn't debunk Atlantis, as we'll talk about that whole Bimmy Road story.
Yeah.
I gotta say the proper
Bimmy?
Bippy.
Nope, that's not it. You've had a little too much bourbon, I believe.
I don't know where's the Bimini road, the rock formation, the Bimini Road rock formations.
Bimini, yeah.
So just because the Bermuda Triangle might not be a thing, that doesn't mean Atlantis isn't there.
No, and it's fucking odd. That is a really cool. It looks like a road in the middle of the fucking ocean.
Well, we've all heard about that. All the continents used to be one, right? Pangea.
Yeah, well, that was long before any civilization.
Was it?
Millions of years. I don't know. Maybe not. Who knows? I would assume it was a long time ago. Pangea.
So to summarize, Bermuda Triangle, probably not a thing.
Yeah, but if you're a pilot or a sailor take warning. Pilot take warning. Dangerous place.
Now, but dangerous place, because any place you're sailing or flying through is probably dangerous. Yeah. So you're in two environments. FYI, we're tree
Life
monkeys.
Jacket.
We're tree monkeys, folks. Tree monkeys, folks. Not birds. Not fish.
Not fish. We are very much land animals.
Land animals. You are in neither of your favorite environments.
Yeah, I like to get soaking though once in a while.
Yeah, but again, within
shallow,
you're right near shore, right? You're
water.
Like, look, I can pull it over. How's your pool, by the way? Did it turn out okay?
Yeah, it's great. Kids love it. Yeah, it's a lot of work. Pools are a lot of work, man.
That's why I don't have one.
You should have a hot tub though. Think about it.
I can't stand hot things. Although actually, I have heard
sore,
that like the
aching bones.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It does. Yeah, my business partner just bought one. Loves it. He's like, he feels like a new man. I'm like,
I laugh when the people try to sell used ones. I'm like, wait a second. So you're going to sell me your funky used hot tub?
Hey, listen to this though. So he got his like virtually free, and it's a beautiful hot tub.
Well, he stole it.
No, he had to pay for movers to move it. It's fucking huge. No, it was this elderly lady, and I guess her husband had wanted one, and basically, they didn't want it anymore, and all they said was, so they had left it out, and one of the do you hear that?
Hear what?
Oh, my mic was messing up. They left it out, and it was it froze with water in it, and two of the pumps blew up. So for $300, yeah, that's all. So he had it
because it's not hard to hook up. Like, I mean, it's electricity and water.
Yeah, no, and it was awesome. So he got probably a $8,000 pool or a spa or hot tub, what do you want to call it, or fixing the pumps.
Okay, and he just has to sanitize it, because I'm thinking of all the sex parties that couple had.
Those old people, you'd be more like defecating in the hot tub at that point. I mean,
whatever. It's hot enough, I guess. Irene, more of a stew.
I just pissed myself again.
We're all gonna get old, Phil.
Yeah,
that'll be you someday.
Shock the fucker again.
Shock it
shit in the pool. Yeah, like I tell the kids that there's it's funny. And I tell the kids there's a chemical in the pool, and if you pee in the pool, it turns all like dark purple. So don't pee in the pool. And they're all like, "Oh man."
Yeah, that's right. This isn't the water. This isn't the ocean. This isn't the lake.
Yeah, this isn't the lake. You don't piss in my pool.
Like fish are pissing. I get it. I get it.
So I see them getting out all the time to go take a leak, and it's like, yes, because when they go in there, they've been drinking water, and they're not coming out for a piss. You're like, you little fuckers are pissing in my pool. God damn it. But it is nice. It's fun to have a pool. It is a lot of work. My wife wanted one, so what my wife wants, she gets. And story of my life. There it is. Pool's there. You'll have to come over one day.
I tell you, we got to do that, Gary. We're going to do squatching with Gary.
We're going to do squatching with Gary for sure.
It'll be a very special episode of the Organized Chaos podcast.
It will be. It could.
Or Order Chaos. Yeah. Oops.
Organized.
That was the original name, folks. That was the original name we were going for the podcast. Turns out that was taken.
That was taken, and we wanted to be a bit original. But on that note, thank you for listening.
Next week, Atlantis.
I can't wait. That's exciting. So
it's going to be disappointing, Phil. I am really sure it is going to be equally disappointing unless we all, like, both of us dress like, I'll dress like Aquaman. You can dress like the Submariner.
Sure. No one's going to want to see that. God damn it, Corey.
No, nobody. I don't know who thought little a Speedo was a good look. A Speedo and wings were a good look for a dude.
Wings on your ankles, of all things, and pointy ears. Yeah. And on that note, thank you very much for watching the OC. I'm your host, Phil, my co-host, Corey, and we will be back with Atlantis next week. So hope you can tune in. All right. Have a good one, folks.
Take care, folks.